Hi, this is Margaret Scott, the first female writer on Transformers Comics, and you are listening to All Things Transformers.
Oh my gosh, this is so great!
Hit record.
Yeah, I did that already.
Good job.
Count in and start going. Woohoo!
You've just jumped inside the Pull Bag. Join TFG1 Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenoscope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the Pull Bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the Pull Bag.
Autobotly August 2018 continues as we talk about Transformers Till All Are One Volume 1. That's right, the Fembots are back for another week of Transformers comic goodness here inside the Pull Bag on All Things Transformers from the Geekcast Radio Network. This is episode 318 of the Pull Bag. I am, of course, your host, TFG Mike. Joining me are those two Fembots, wow, that would give Austin Powers a run for his money. First up, we have... the Megatron obsessed, wrong prime worshippin Heather, aka Ha Hee Prime, hashtag Rodimus Rules, Optimus Rules, hello.
You're so delusional.
No, not really. Worst leader ever. I didn't cry when he died. I swear I didn't. Then there's that whirlin' wrecker girl who put your eye out. She wrecks, she rules. It's Aimee, aka LadyWreck. See, I added something to it this time because you didn't interrupt me like last time.
Oh, is that why I became the second in line this time? Is because I always interrupt you, right?
Well, I'm working off the original script because Cyclonus, Rio's girlfriend isn't here, so it's not like,
I can hear her screaming wherever she's at right now.
I know, right?
She's going to be listening to this at work or something and suddenly just throw mail everywhere and run screaming out, kicking things. It'll
For
be
the
amazing.
record, folks, Nicole Beatles Diva Hailstorm loves Cartoon Rio from Gem and the Holograms.
Oh, she totally doesn't. Come on, don't misrepresent.
Yes, she does. All right.
You do realize that this means war, right?
Yeah.
She's going to come after you.
It's all right. So today we are continuing on with the Margaret Scott written books. This is the third ongoing at the time that this happened, and I fully believe they did this on purpose. I know the ongoing didn't last as long as I thought and felt it should have, but you look at More Than Meets the Eye, and at that time, Robots in Disguise, before it became not Rid, X-Rid, whatever, John's book and James's book. James's book is Rodimus and Co. out in space looking for the Knights of Cybertron and all that. John's book was Cybertron, and now it's kind of, at this point in time of the continuity, it's turned into Earth, and Optimus has done a stupid thing of annexing Earth and everything else, because, all Earthlings love Transformers in this universe.
Wait. John got to tell the political Cybertron story, and he had moved on to the next thing that he wanted to do. And we had this opening with the Cybertron political story that had kind of, not wrapped up completely, but he kind of left it in a good place where somebody else could jump in and run with it. And Margaret took on that that role, and she ran with it. It was
absolutely.
Great.
I see this as an extension of the two Windblade series that she's already done, because that was where she came in, was with the Windblade character. What my point is here is you have Rodimus and everybody else out in space doing their thing. You got John Optimus Jazz, that stupid Thundercracker stuff on Earth.
Are you kidding? It's not stupid.
It's dumb.
Thundercracker is
Aimee,
awesome.
We need to kick Mike off the podcast.
You can't.
We totally do. We need to take over.
I have dealt with enough, young man.
I mean, I think I was hearing, the jaw smacking the table at this point when you said it was that crap. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's not crap.
John's an excellent writer, and I love his stuff, but Robots and
Thundercracker writer is awesome.
No, he's not.
He's great.
No, he's not.
Oh, come
Buster
on.
needs to bite him in the tailpipe.
Well, those are fighting words. I think.
And then
Heather, we need to go start our own podcast.
And then we have the you can revive the underbase, and then we have obviously Windblade, Starscream, the old married couple on Cybertron. So you have Earth, space, and Cybertron in these three ongoings, and everybody was like, a third ongoing? Are they correct? I remember this. Everybody was going nuts when Till All Are One was announced. Like, why do they need a third ongoing? We have so much to read already. I'm like,
let's just say this, guys. This is the hair that broke the camel's back on the underbase. To be honest, it was. One, I was already having a baby. Two, I couldn't run it forever. And three, there was just so much coming out, and we were so excited for all of it. There was just no way that I could keep up with all of it. So that's when I was like, you know what, we got to put a fork in it, because this isn't going to happen.
Darn, that makes me sad because it's such a good series.
I know, it is a good series, and I really want to go back and talk about it, but that's why I'm here and not over somewhere else. And it's just, life is crazy for me. I don't have the time that I once had. Having the third child has seriously changed life. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. Yeah. But for the most part, I mean, I'm not going to say that this killed the underbase. It didn't kill the underbase. It was already kind of, I couldn't do it. But I was like, once I heard this, I was like, oh, that's going to be brilliant. And I just don't have the energy to do it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just always gonna there's your podcast, the underbase, and there's the I just totally lost the title of it. This other podcast by two fun people who talk about the comics, and both of them ended, and I'm in mourning of both of them.
Oh, what was the other one that ended?
She doesn't remember.
I'm trying so hard to remember what it's called.
Was it the other one that was over? Was it another UK one or?
No. It was this girl named Nell and this guy named Greg, and what the heck did they blinking call it?
Oh, I've never heard that one. I should probably go check it.
Give me a second to click around.
Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about Till All Are One, Volume 1. This is the first 4 issues of this series, written by Margaret Scott, art by... I even asked her how to do this, and
Sarah Petrie-Dorochet.
It's a French. She's like, "Oh, just put it into Google Translate, and you can hear the." I've been listening to the audio of how to say her last name for the last 3 hours.
Sarah Petrie-Dorochet. There you go. Mm-hmm. Oh, so the podcast was called Soundwave?
Yeah, Sound.wave.
Sound.wave. Okay.
And it was sauce. Blinkin' loved it.
That's funny.
It filled in once Underbase ended. It started up just about at that time, and I was like, hooray!
Oh, really? Fantastic. That's cool.
And they went through all of... They started... It was a girl who loved Transformers and was super hip to it, and a guy who knew nothing, but was into comic books. And so it was her introducing him, and about... He starts off being like, Whirl is my favorite, just to mess with her. And then by issue 6, he's like, no, for serious, Whirl is my favorite.
That's awesome.
So
that's
the
great.
Interesting thing about this series, I'm assuming it's throughout the whole series. I don't know. We'll find out as we go through the volumes here. Margaret, as I said, is on writing. Sarah is on art. Priscilla Tramontano and Joanna LaFuente are on colors. The only males on this series are Tom B. Long on letters and John Barber on series edits. So pretty much this is an all-female-led book, and that's great.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
That was fantastic.
Yes. And this story, these first 4 issues, I read this in like a half an hour when I first read it. Like, I was surprised that I read the entire volume that fast, and I did read every word of it. But it just went by so quickly. I absolutely love it.
So now, did you read it? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it is a quick read, but Margaret's scripts tend to be fast.
Yeah.
Especially if you're used to, like, John and James, where they're, like, really dense and you got to pay attention to every little thing. Margaret's scripts are a lot faster. They're still full of cool things to dig into, but they're fast.
What were you going to say, Aimee?
And it'll trick me sometimes. Sometimes it'll trick me. I'll be like, this is kind of, thin. And then I'm like, no, you're just not used to this style.
Yeah.
I'm like, look at these huge panels. Nothing's happening. Where are my pages with like 30 panels on?
Yeah, but this is
poor Alan.
This is so great, though.
So what I was going to say is, what are you reading from? Just out of curiosity.
What do you mean? What am I reading from?
Are you reading the volume?
Oh yeah,
it's
just I've only got these in trade. I do not have them in singles. I'm only buying trades at this point for the Transformers stuff. The only thing I'm buying in singles, only to read it, is Unicron, because we won't get to Unicron until next year at this point. Because like you guys said, you fall off and you start and you stop and you this and you that and whatever, and you come back to it. For me, I stopped reading Transformers by single issue because I just could not keep up. I could not keep up on a monthly basis, especially at this point in time with 3 ongoings. Oh no. As much as I love Margaret's stuff, I just could not keep up. And like I said last episode, I read for the enjoyment of doing it, but I'm also reading to make sure it's freshest in my mind for when I record a podcast. So, like, I read this twice before we recorded this. I read through it once to get the story, and I went back and I looked at the art and I looked at the little bits and pieces and little nuances and things like that so I could have that in my head. So yeah, no, I read in trade. I do not. Very rarely do I read singles anymore.
Gotcha. Well, I was just wondering, just because that would make sense that you read from issue to issue and not so. I had the same problem. Well, actually, it's not a problem. When we did our last review of the Distant Stars, the 4 through 7 issues, it went by really, really fast. I was like, oh, are we already to Combiner Hunters? Oh, okay. Yeah. So it goes. It's a good. You get a good story that flows really well. It's not like fast in the sense that it's too short. But it has you feel satisfied when you get to the end of the arc. You know. And then with me, with Till All Are One, I actually got each one of them in single because I knew it was going to be good, and I wanted to get it as it was coming out, and I wanted to read everyone. And then I decided I was just going to buy everything in single for Till All Are One when they announced that they were going to be ending the series. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to keep up with this, man. So I just got all of them in single issue, and I read all of them. That's all I had. So I read the 4 that we're going to review today in single issue. So how about you, Heather?
I did the opposite. This was one that I didn't jump on right away because I was kind of like, I don't know, man. I can't read all this stuff. I got to put food on the table and whatnot. And I'm just, glad that I hear when things are good from people, because everybody was like, no, this is really good. And so I finally jumped on and got it. But I didn't get it in single. I'm trying to remember. How did I do it? I don't think I started getting single issues until like the next trade stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get it like at the very beginning. I actually bought every single one of them, I think, halfway through. Because I was like the same thing. I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I kind of heard that it was good. I suspected it was good because it's Margaret. And besides the fact that it was an all-female cast, so I expected it to be. Life. I have 3 kids, like I've said before. I have 3 kids.
Yep.
So.
Oh, speaking of Margaret, that's what I was going to say, and I forgot. The way she writes and everything kind of trucks along really fast, click, click, click. Her writing is so what's the word for it? Like television?
It's
like it's cinematic.
Yeah.
Like the way she puts a story together and the way it's paced feels like you're watching a movie of it.
Which makes sense because that's what she was doing before she came into comic books. She was Transformers Prime, Rescue Bots. I mean, I think Rescue Bots was actually during the same time, but she's done stuff on the screen, whether it be TV, whatnot, series, and you're right. It relays well to the comic. It really kind of does.
It does very much so.
It's really cool to see the way people's different talents are expressed, or different styles are expressed. The world is full of awesome people.
Yep. Awesome creative people. Woo!
All right, so I'm putting the ladies to work, and they're going to synopsize each of these issues. Because they have to do something around here. I do all the other work.
Oh, really?
So, issue 1.
This is getting expensive.
Oh, hi, that's me. I've got it. I have.
Are you sure about this?
I'm fully sure of this. I was like zoned out. You sounded so like you were ready to charge ahead. I was waiting for words of wisdom to drop from your lips. Okay. All right.
Mighty leader of this podcast.
All right, guys. So, here is what happens in issue 1. We start with a scary page of a guy getting absolutely horrifically dead of a head wound. And then we see everybody sort of settling uneasily into this new government with the colonies and the council and everything. We find out that Ironhide is running a security force that is not Starscream's badgeless police force, and people are starting to hire him instead of the badgeless. So he gets called into a council because Obsidian and people are ticked off that these guys are getting killed, and they want to know what's happening, and Starscream's kind of being as justice obstructy as he can. Meanwhile, we see the Combaticons in their like shared apartment, and they're grouching around. Onslaught is getting weird messages on his little tablet from somebody that we don't know, and Blastoff is worried that he's obsessing about it. Onslaught charges off angry, and Blastoff sees a new message appear about a gift in the dumpster, and that he should go, they need to step up their activities. So Blastoff goes and goes to the dumpster, and he finds some badgeless armor, and it's kind of one size fits all, holographic, change your voice, make you unrecognizable armor. So
nobody can be targeted, in other words.
Exactly. You can hide your identity, which isn't creepy at all. The badgeless creep me out.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Starscream, your badges are not creepy at all.
Yeah, not at all. So the Ironhide gets a call in his security force capacity because there's a guy in Blur's bar being racist to some
McAdams.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
It's McAdams.
It's McAdams. Aimee knows all the things. So Ironhide goes to kind of chill this guy out and takes him outside, but then a bunch of 2 badgeless show up, and one of them is Blastoff in his costume. And they're like, we're going to take you to the station. And he gets all defiant and drunk, and he's all, Swindle lives, which is the conspiracy that everybody's talking about. And it's freaking out Starscream. And so the badgeless are like, oh, Swindle lives, eh? We're going to take you down to the station and Nemo surgery your brain and find out what you know. And he's like, I was kidding. I don't know anything. And Ironhide's trying to protect him, but it doesn't work. And he runs, and one badgeless is holding Ironhide, and one badgeless goes and chases the guy into an alley. And there's some shots, and a crowd appears because they, see what's happening, and the badgeless sort of shoots at them, and they run away like they're going to get killed. Windblade and Obsidian show up, and Ironhide kind of tells them, hey, the badgeless really are talking about Nemo surgerying people. And Windblade just starts yelling at Starscream's face, and he's like, you have to keep this under wraps or I'll tell what Chromia did. But then the little cute, adorable news people show up, and they're like, hey, Mr. Starscream, what do you have to say about this footage that's somebody got of the guy being shot in the back, and Starscream's like, you can't broadcast that, and the guy's like, oh, it's already out.
It's live
and
as we speak.
It's live already. Yeah.
Ends.
Yes. I love this first issue. The story is amazing, but I love Sarah's art. She does, like, when Sarah's art is light and bright and the bots look shiny as all hell, I love that. That first page where you see Air Razor and Tigatron, at first I was like, wait, oh, that's who that is. And then obviously Windblade and Chromia and Alita 1 and Ironhide. And then you get to the panel of Knockout and Breakdown. I'm like, hey, good on them putting Breakdown in there, because Knockout was already there too. That was cool. It still weirds me out because Bumblebee is still a ghost. He's still a figment of Starscream's imagination at this point, right?
Yeah.
That still freaks me out. I know
well,
he
it's
comes.
not the only creepy thing that he's got going on in his life, so you know.
Having Obsidian and Strika in there, I absolutely love that.
I know, isn't that great?
So
I mean,
cool.
it's like we took the last series and just kind of picked up within up 2 pages. We kind of got it. I remember at the end of the last series, we were saying, "Oh, we kind of want to know more about what's going on with all the other people." They did that in like 2 pages. This huge panel. They kind of summed up everything we wanted to know that we didn't see in the last one, and there we go. Now we're starting forward, and I really liked that about this.
Yeah. And I think this is the first time ever I've actually liked the Combaticons. I've liked Swindle off and on over the years, but the rest of them I've never actually cared, because half the time none of them have personality in any of the other cartoons. Even in G1, I mean, they had some personality, but Swindle was the one that had the most personality out of all of them. And I really dig Blastoff. I want to see more stories with Blastoff. He was cool in this.
Agreed.
You know, it's cool because before she did this, she did what was it? Rage of the Dinobots?
I don't think
something like that.
It wasn't Rage.
Yeah, no.
Oh, you talking about Margaret or Sarah?
Margaret.
Yes, Margaret did Rage of the Dinobots.
So she took a situation with them as well and made them all characters that had different personalities and things like that. And so this is what Margaret likes to do. And before this time, like, Devastator had more stuff going on for him. We haven't seen Bruticus really do anything for a while. Like, he's been in the background, but we don't get like an actual centric story with just him doing stuff. I mean, the Combaticons, not Bruticus himself, but like the Combaticons. Usually it's Bruticus going around smashing stuff, because we've done a lot of stuff with combiners. But we haven't done it with the rest of the team, and that's what I really like about what's going on at this point in IDW's run of stuff. They're giving each of the combiner groups like actual personalities, or just groups of people. Like I said, the Dinobots before, but it wasn't just Margaret that was doing it. I think they've done a few other things in other stories as well. I mean, we've got the Victorion and the Torchbearers, and so we're getting stuff. And so it's like, it was really cool because now that we actually have some story tied to these guys, they're somebody to us. Everybody is enjoying them because of that. And so it's really cool to see, like, oh yeah, I want to have more Blastoff. I want to have more Onslaught. I want to have more of these guys. They're not just that guy that makes up Bruticus.
Yeah.
And
that's the great thing about nowadays in the comics.
And Swindle, sorry. I mean, Swindle had stuff because he was selling stuff, but everybody else was just part of Bruticus. So,
and now they can become individual entities. Like, Onslaught is this, you know...
Within 4 issues, we're like, I love these guys.
Exactly. Well,
they're shady,
exactly.
but I love them.
Yeah, Blastoff gets some particularly good characterization because through the whole thing, he is like the most fuzzy one, the one that you most want a plush of. And then all of a sudden, he's horrible and scary to Wheeljack and Chromia. Yep. He's like, no, I'm totally going to shoot Chromia in the head. And you're like, wait, he's not a nice man.
Nope.
I was like, I was totally on your team, Blastoff. I was like,
Is it peer pressure though? Is it peer pressure though? Because he's part of the team. I mean,
it's not peer pressure. He's totally acting on his own agenda, but his agenda is to save Onslaught, and he really doesn't care what he does. I mean, he totally fully shoots that guy in the alley.
Yeah, that's true. He was shot him in the alley.
Yeah,
I'd say that, but you can make the assumption. He was also the guy that said, "Hey, we're gonna," he was totally loading that whole situation.
Yep.
Yeah. He was there to pad it in that way. I think what gets me is the fact that then we see in issue 3, where he's becoming the sympathetic character, because you're like, oh, but the guys like him and he's being so cool, and but it is an act, but some of it wasn't, because when we get into the 4th issue, then we see he's like, no, I don't want this. He's changed. Yeah. And that was really cool to see that within a 4-issue arc, go from being the guy that was willing to do whatever, kill, is doing it because he has his own motive and he's part of a team. But then he starts going, but I kind of don't want to do that at the very end. He
has what he wants, but he doesn't want and here's the thing. He sees that Onslaught just wants to destroy and have vengeance and everything, and he can't get out of the war. Blastoff is mentally out of the war.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get everybody else out of it, but he's still, or at least let me put it this way, he thinks he's out of the war.
Yeah.
But obviously he's not really, because he does all this stuff. But guys, another thing I totally noticed, we were talking about Bruticus and stuff. I think we all just assume Bruticus the Combiner has totally been around in IDW, at least I did. I wasn't even paying attention. He hasn't. This is the like when Rat Trap brings the Enigma combination and they combine. That's the first time they've done it. It felt so because we've been up to our eyeballs in combiners.
He was in Costas. He made an appearance in Costas Ongoing.
Did he though?
Yes.
Because I think that was
as Bruticus.
Menasor. Because Swindle was hanging out with Menasor.
Pretty sure that he was with Costas. Together. I thought that was. Now I'm gonna have to go look it up.
What? And to be fair, that's not me figuring it out. That was the wiki being all. This is finally the first appearance of Bruticus. Right, I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, he has not, like, to my knowledge, from as long as I've been reading, and I have not and will not read Costa's run. Like I said last week, and not trying to consistently repeat myself, even though I am.
But Mike, don't you want to read about the Combaticons working for North Korea? It was amazing.
It was amazing, right?
Anything's better than the interview.
Okay,
but still.
Having been one of the persons that reviewed it for the first time on a podcast as it was coming out, I don't blame you. I do not blame you. It's a very...
Hey.
I haven't gone back and read it. I have not gone back to read it since it ended and I moved forward. That's no slight against the writer. I just don't care to self-abuse.
Yeah. In the 5 years that this podcast has been online, all of this Transformers comics coverage is all Ender's fault. He went on and on and on and on and on about how, oh my God, Shockwave, oh my God this, oh my God that, oh my God whatever.
My bad. It was Menasor. I was thinking for some reason, but maybe it was because Swindle was in there.
Yeah. Swindle being involved really throws you off, and you think it's Bruticus, but it isn't.
Yeah,
it's not.
No, but the fact that
I expect to get hate mail over that. Yeah, they'll be like, "Hey, don't you know your stuff?" It's like, yeah, I did review all that, but I haven't read it since.
You can send hate mail to Mike at thisweekingeek.net. That's a really bad inside joke because it's not my email address.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's okay. But, like, Ender really set me straight. He was like, okay, do this. Start with Death of Optimus Prime. Either, basically Robert Frosted, two roads diverge, or you can take both roads. And I obviously took both because at this point, we've reviewed every single thing IDW has done.
Not every single thing, if you haven't gone through the Costa stuff.
Well, every single thing IDW has done that actually matters.
Oh, it does matter. That's where we got Thundercracker and Bob.
Ugh. The hell is wrong with
and
you,
crazy
Costa?
Sniper Wheelie. Oh, and your bad boy, Rodimus.
There is good stuff in there. You
There
just have to
is
find
good
it.
stuff. You just have to really plow through a whole lot of issues that have issues upon issues until you get to something that's actually kind of cool. Chaos was actually not bad.
Yeah.
Or not Chaos, but Chaos Theory. And
oh yeah, no, that was killer good.
Chaos Theory was amazing. It was also not written by Mike.
Yeah. No, but even in Costa's
before
run,
that,
it's cool.
You get the Rodimus story and Wheelie's story. That was actually not too bad. I thought that was good. And the Ironhide mini wasn't too bad either. And neither was Drift, but that also wasn't.
Oh yeah, I fully plan on doing this.
Picking all the good stuff out.
Yeah, I fully plan on doing the spotlights, and I have read several of the spotlights themselves. But what I'm saying is the actual ongoing that was written. Oh no.
Yeah.
No. I know better than that.
You can just nothing really hugely important happened in that. I'd say read the ending, and you're good. Just read the ending.
Yes.
Maybe the first issue to kind of hear the state of affairs, and then just read the whole end.
There's not enough money in Donald Trump's tower for me to do that.
We're not here to review all of the ongoing Costa era.
No.
So let's go back to something good. Which, hey, I have to point out this because this is really cool. That at the very beginning of this issue, we get the 2-page panel that has like everything going on at the same time. Yep. I thought this was really amazing because it didn't make a difference to me until the very end. But you see this bot. And you find out later that, well, I mean, you can probably figure out that it's Chromia. When I first saw it, I was like, what is this?
Yep.
And then I came back to it. Oh, that's right. This really awesome little thing happened. So Chromia has written the names of the people that died when she did her thing in the first Windblade mini.
Right.
She wrote the names of the people that died in that accident that she started, bombs that she threw off that started an earthquake. She wrote the 3 names on her head, and when she takes her helmet off, you can see the names etched behind one of her, like where I'd say her ear is. And I was like, oh crap, man, that's dark. But I was like, oh, it's so good because it's just this small little thing that you see on the first page, the first 2 actually, the first page is the guy that got the Decepticon that's bleeding out his head is like all bleh. And the next page is this it's literally the second page in, and it comes back full circle by the end of the 4 issues. It was like, oh, that is so gold right there.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And if you weren't paying attention, you're like, huh, what does that mean? Yeah, well, it's kind of important.
Sarah can do all the covers for the rest of everything as far as I'm concerned, because issue 2's cover with Windblade having her magical girl appearance for the cover and then Metroplex basically in the center there, I love this cover. This cover is amazing.
So we're on to issue 2.
Yes, take it away.
This is going to be juicy. All hail Starscream!
All right, so issue number 2. In the wake of the badgeless officers murdering a Decepticon, civil unrest takes to the streets, and it's not just Decepticons. They've gained support from every newcomer on the planet. An angry mob takes to walking on the council they're walking to the council building where everybody is at, and it's observed by Obsidian and Airazor. So Starscream his plan is to meet the Force with Force, an idea that Ironhide challenges, and then he proposes a new idea to be put in charge of security, and the council, of course, agrees. They're like, hey, we don't want another war breaking out here. He meets the crowd to announce that he's the new head of security, this IH, what was it called?
It's Ironhide Security something.
Yeah, Ironhide Security something, yeah. All right, whatever. So he meets the crowd to announce that he's the new head of security, and he vows to investigate the murder to the fullest, as well as to find Swindle, And then he invites members of the crowd to step forward and join him and help him. And this kind of diffuses the situation, which is exactly what they were trying to do. Two of the Combaticons are in the crowd, hoping for some smackdown. It's Onslaught, who has a bone to pick with Starscream, which is also revealed in this issue and then later touched on later. And he tries to attack Ironhide. Blastoff stops him, and we have this legitimate parting of friends played up in front of the crowd. And it pulls off. I mean, you kind of believe, wow, those guys are not friends anymore. Okay. So as the crowd disperses, Blastoff asks to join Ironhide. And he says, yeah, sure, absolutely. So meanwhile, the council watches from above inside the building, and in Starscream's chambers, he's like, hey, as the crowd starts to break up, he asks everybody to leave and ushers them all out so he can collect his thoughts to make an official statement. But Windblade stays to ask him, honestly, do you have Swindle's body? And he says he does not, and reveals that Onslaught is the only Combaticon to ever outthink him, and he's dangerous. And he also uses this moment to blackmail her into dealing with the Combaticon. So, hey, while you're here, you're going to take care of this little problem for me. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Final sequence is one with the Tankors. One of the Tankers. We got Tall Tankor and Fat Tankor. Thank you, Megatron Scott. Yeah. He offers Blastoff to stay with them, and he accepts, but he says he has to go clear his head and goes off to encounter Onslaught, who tells him they totally bought it. And you find out, oh, crap, we've been played.
Yep.
So, it was awesome.
One of my favorite things in this issue was seeing Air-Razor and Obsidian in the same scene together, because you never really see that, because obviously Obsidian is from Beast Machines. At least originally he was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just love Starscream and Windblade in this issue.
They were really fun. They did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially the whole thing. Oh, I'm sure if I do so. Oh no, that's the next issue.
Yeah, that's the next
issue. He says that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. I absolutely love the art in this. Sarah, her art is like, if there's anything they need to animate, it's this.
It would be a really good animated thing. You were saying you love Sarah's art because it's so bright. That is Priscilla's colors. And she is just in top form. Priscilla does the first two issues, and
Joanna does the last two.
Right.
Joanna does the second two. Yeah.
She does the second two. And Priscilla's coloring is, in my opinion, not usually quite. She doesn't do usually this style of coloring. And so this is the first time I've seen her be as luminous as Joanna is. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, rock on, Prips, good job.
Yeah.
Because it just glows and shines, and it's good stuff.
Because by the time we get to the page of where Ironhide is trying to quell the crowd, and where he's like, please help me, screw you, Autobot, and they throw a rock at him. I don't think I've ever seen Ironhide look that shiny. His red on his head and stuff, it's never looked that shiny and that bright red before. And even the very next panel where Tankor is saying, boss, again.
Both the Tankors, yeah.
Well,
Fat Tankor and Tall Tankor are both going, boss.
That panel, before we see them, we see Ironhide with his head down. And it goes immediately from the light and bright to where you get the rock thrown at him to just really, really dark. And it is so good.
That sets the mood. I mean, that whole scene is just Ironhide is not one. He took down all the Insecticons. Come on, you think this crowd would be that hard? But still, I mean, it's just he's doing the right thing. And to have a rock thrown at him is just especially think about nowadays, the political atmosphere that we have in our own time. And this just really hit home for me when I read it a second time, going, oh, geez, because he's not a guy. He could punch every single one of those guys in the face. Mm-hmm. and take it. But he took that, and that takes a whole lot more because he's not fighting back. And at that moment when you think that, ooh, just hit me really emotionally, that dude, he's trying to do what's right, and he gets a rock thrown at him. I don't know if anybody's ever been hit with a rock like that. At that moment. I have, and it's not fun. Yeah. So it really kind of hit home for me. But you know, the mood that set and how they darkened that and they made it look like they did is like, Priscilla, you did glorious on this, making the mood work really, really well at that point. It really, really worked for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had to wait on that panel for a minute to go, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole series is, I think, you know, the Ironhide appreciation series because he's so good. It starts off with his line, I think it's in the first issue, where Starscream's like, you know, the people who think like that are, you know, little people. And Ironhide goes, speaking as a little person.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And then from then on, he just goes on and on to just become a better and better dude, where you're just like, I pick you, sir. You are a good person. Oh, but guys, I gotta, while we're on this page, okay, so the page just before where Ironhide gets hit in the head, where you see Onslaught and Blastoff listening in the crowd. A, that's really good art because they're the only ones in focus and everybody else is blurred. But B, I was reading it the second time just before we did the podcast, and I'm like, man, I so want Onslaught to be listening to this and then reach over and like start speaking hand to Blastoff and be like, so here's the plan. You're going to pretend that you hate me now. Because they don't have a chance to really plot that out.
Right.
That doesn't
I think they did it off screen. I think that was the whole point, is that they were doing it off screen.
Yeah, but that's my headcanon now because I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, that is very...
Oh, wait, are you talking about the page where the two of them are standing in the midst of the...
Yeah, in the crowd.
Gotcha.
Ironhide talking.
I have something to say about this panel here.
Okay.
Because Sarah did it once in the first issue. I'd have to go back and check see where it was. Onslaught has the eyebrow thing.
I know.
I don't know how she did it. It was like, he's got no facial features except an eye and a faceplate. And he moves. Oh my gosh. It's just subtle differences in how she arranged the face. He's emoting. And I just went, oh my gosh. Whoa.
It's like the top line of his visor.
Oh, subtle. It's
sneaky.
Yeah. And she just totally hit that. And I just went, Sarah. That gave me goosebumps. It's giving me goosebumps right now just talking about it.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah, that's good. That was good. I love that panel. That's like the perfect panel. Blastoff's not even looking. It's just like this little eyebrow from Onslaught. And you're just like, ooh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's sneaky.
Absolutely. I think my favorite panel in this issue, outside of that with the coloring, my favorite story part of this issue for the paneling, again, goes to the old married couple. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a statement to make. There is a line, Starscream. Is there? Well, I'm sure you'll scream when I cross it. There's not many people anymore. Obviously, Chris Latta's gone. He's been gone for years now. There's not many voice actors that can repeat that. I believe when Steve Blum was doing Starscream in Prime and whatever else he's done it in recently, when Steve Blum was Starscream, when I interviewed him, we asked him a question of, did they want you to, try to mimic Latta or impersonate Latta's Starscream, or did they want you to do your own thing? He said, they wanted me to do my own thing. However, whenever they wanted me to go as high as being Latta, he said everybody in the production booth would throw up jazz hands, and that means go Latta. I could see and hear Steve saying these lines that are here in this panel. That would be amazing.
Jazz hands. Jazz hands. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Issue 2, I absolutely love it. I want to know, I've been meaning to ask this, but we were 2 issues in. The final panel, and I'm looking at it in the trade, so it's like the closing of it. It's like this silver thing. Like, I don't understand what that is all about.
Oh, just the divider page between issues? Yeah. I always interpret it as the nearest Cybertronian wall.
Okay.
But it's just, a divider thing.
Because normally, at least in Lost Light and Optimus Prime to this point, because we've already recorded that episode at this point, they would just have the alternate covers show, like one alternate cover show. But yeah, absolutely. Any other final thought?
I like this way better though, because then you're done with that issue, and it doesn't visually confuse you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I'm not seeing it then because I have the individual issues.
Yeah, you do.
So.
Oh yeah. You don't get to look at a wall, Amy. Too bad.
Oh, bummer. Oh well.
Issues.
I've got plenty of walls around me, so hey.
Sadly, they're not all padded.
True, and I have to be careful of that because I don't like bruises all over my arms and face, and yeah.
So, issue 3's cover is depressing. It's basically the Combaticons with poor brain-dead Swindle in the front, and then Bruticus in the back. And they're all, like, hanging. It's so funny because you see Swindle in the very front of this cover by Sarah, and then you see all the other ones, and as they go up, like, the first one is just looking straight, the next one's just kind of looking straight, the final 2 in the back are, like, have their heads down. And then obviously the Bruticus version, which is like in shadow, has his head hung. I'm like, damn, that's a statement. That's a cover that would, like, if I was in a comic shop when this originally came out, I would probably pick this issue up just based on this cover alone.
Do you also notice the eye color?
Oh yeah.
Because the only one that's standing out as different is. A blast off.
Yep.
Holy biscuit! I never noticed that before. Yep. Good spot.
Oh yeah.
And not only that, his eye color is the same as the blood that's coming, or the energon that's coming off of Swindle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Holy crap, biscuit!
It's dark. I'm sad now. It's so good. It's very subtle, but it's so good.
This would probably ruin the cover, but imagine this cover. As done by Sarah.
As a poster on my wall.
Okay,
yes,
well, there's that. But imagine this, where Blastoff's eye color, the tear is coming off his chest plate and touching Swindle's head.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. I think we just broke Heather's brain.
Well, no, I'm sitting here analyzing it, and I'm like, no, I think that'd be a little too emo.
It might be a little too emo, but I get what you're saying. That would be
it's cool. It is cool.
Yeah.
All right, Amy, take issue 3 away.
Okay, so issue 3, following through from the last issue, Windblade starts to investigate the Combaticons, but Chromia catches her and finds out why. Chromia volunteers to help them both get out of this mess by finding Swindle's body first. Sorry, I can't speak today. She tries pulling up her own secret footage cache of the night that Swindle disappeared from the end of the Combiner Wars, but someone has corrupted the footage. Over the next few weeks, Chromia works to unscramble the corrupted data, while new security chief Ironhide starts to train his recruits, Blastoff having to go through the process of proving himself as well as the other recruits. But they impress. When Ironhide reports his progress to the council, Blastoff is invited by the other recruits to go celebrate at McAdams. He feigns needing more study time with the booking system when he's really trying to access the same security footage Chromia has been working to reveal. Unfortunately, he accesses the video when Chromia finally finishes unscrambling it. Both Chromia and Blastoff find that it was Wheeljack and Rat Trap who took him. I suspected Rat Trap, but Wheeljack was a reveal for me when I read through it. Chromia is unable to contact Windblade, who's been detained by an impatient Starscream. She races to Wheeljack, but two of the Combaticons show up to overpower her and kidnap both her and Wheeljack. Let's see, the other two Combaticons pick up Rat Trap, and they all go to where they stashed Swindle. Mm-hmm. Wheeljack then explains that it wasn't Starscream, that they actually grabbed Swindle to try and save him, but they were too late. By then, he was already padoot. Fueled by his obsession to find out what Swindle knows so he can destroy Starscream, Onslaught refuses to give up, even though Swindle appears to be brain dead. Blastoff questions Onslaught again, but he says that he has one final card to play. Rat Trap returns with them to them with the enigma of combination. Mm-hmm. Got to the end of that with, oh snap.
Yep. Yeah, I outside of the stuff with Windblade and Starscream and the stuff with Wheeljack and Chromia, favorite panel out of this one is where Onslaught is basically talking to Rat Trap, and I think Rat Trap here might be able to help us get them. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. All right. He basically scrunches Rat Trap's head into his body. Like, oh man, Scott McNeil, where the hell are you, dude? Because I can hear. Yeah. Oh man, I could hear his voice in my head. Yeah, the reveal of Swindle's body. Poor Swindle. Like, I know the guy's a schemer and he's a double dealer and he's just out to make a buck, but he did not deserve this.
No, he didn't.
And he's also adorable. It really doesn't help that, like, everybody has been making him just a fun little obnoxious punk for the last while. And so we're like, but we love him.
Yep. Yeah, issue 3, I thought it was super fun. I thought the story really picked up. I can't say, and I've gushed all over Sarah, Priscilla, and Joanna at this point, because all three of them, you just give these characters to them, and honestly, it doesn't matter. These three women can do anything in Transformers as far in the comics, as far as I'm concerned. I don't even care once Till All Are Gone and Unicron destroys the universe. I don't care what comes next. These three women need to be on something, because holy wow.
Just the fact that you had Chromia sitting there pouting as she's trying to break this code. You know, after what, day too many?
12, way too, no, never cross that out, never too many.
Yeah, they crossed it out. Way too many. It's like, it's just, that alone was really awesome, just to see that. I mean, how often are you going to see a Transformer laying on the ground pouting because they can't break a code? It just, wow, that was really cool. I mean, I was just, the little things like that in here have been just really fun.
That it's so relatable the way, like, I was going to bring that up too, Aimee, that the art here, because they're also in the panel on the previous page. It's a smaller panel, but it's where she's sitting with like a keyboard in her lap. She's sitting cross-legged, staring up at Metroplex's brain, trying to like get it. And then you see her later, and she's now just like on her stomach, like with her face propped on her arm, and like just flopped on the ground. And I'm like, we have all done those exact things.
Yeah.
And it's just so good, because we so hardly ever see. I think that's one of the things that makes this art so good, is that they all are in, you know, the best possible way, so humanized in the way they move, the way they emote, the way they express themselves in their entire body.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, it is so good. And the Margaret's writing, I mean, there's not, I mean, this woman has done some amazing writing over the years, both for television and the comics and everything like that. And it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah. I have a question. I feel like I've missed something, and I was wondering if you guys knew. Who hacked Chromia's files? Who corrupted them?
That
was it Starscream?
They haven't said. They haven't said who it was that did it. And I kind of get the sense, because I wasn't quite sure about that either. And I went to the wiki, And I kind of gives the impression that I don't think that we know, at least in this issue, at least in this arc, who it was that did it.
Because, like, Blastoff knows about those files too, even though they're Chromia's. That was where it fell apart.
Got a little fuzzy there for a minute.
Yeah,
because it was. Let me. I'm trying to flip through that right now.
I thought it was black because somebody else was chroming through the files. No pun intended, but I thought it was Blastoff because he was trying to save Onslaught.
Yeah. You know what? It could actually have been Onslaught that found them originally because, like he said at the beginning in issue 1, where he's like, I've been trying to find some dirt on Starscream, trying to figure out what exactly.
We don't know who this guy is, this DC 537.
That's the other thing.
We don't know who he is yet, at least not in this arc. I don't know if we ever did find out. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But I suspect that maybe that's the person because he's also, well, I take that back. Because it could be, but we never do find out.
Yeah. I'll have to
DC 537. I mean, thinking about it, I'm going, I don't know. I really don't know if we ever find out who DC is. The guy that's giving them the information. If it was him that was corrupting and that's the thing. I don't think it would be him corrupting the files because he wants him to.
Exactly.
DC
he wants
them to find Swindle. And they can't find Swindle without the files. And so somebody else, it's got to be somebody else. And who knows, maybe Starscream was that thorough that he found them and he corrupted them. Who knows?
It makes sense in a way for Starscream. Sorry, what?
It never really says who corrupts them.
Yeah.
But I also suspect that it wasn't the Combaticons because they want to find
They want the thing.
And I kind of get the feeling that what's going on, and maybe this is just a little lost in translation. I kind of got the idea that maybe Blastoff was monitoring these files.
Yeah.
And when he sees that somebody else has accessed them, he waits for them to crack them before he piggybacks on that to find out what it is, what the information is. It's Chromia reacting really fast. My guess is that she didn't know if anybody sees it or not, but it could happen at any time. I mean, she just rushes off to go help them. So I guess it really doesn't matter whether or not she knew somebody was watching or not. She just assumed that somebody would find that information as well. So she was like, nope, got to get there really fast just in case. So
they don't trust Starscream further than can spit, which is true. It does make sense to me that Starscream actually would be the one sending messages to Onslaught, because what it's doing and what Blastoff sees and why he's trying to break him out of it is it's keeping Onslaught spinning his wheels. Also, Starscream doesn't know where Swindle's body is, so if he can get Onslaught to use his brain to help him, unknowingly, but help find out what happened to Swindle. That would be
but sense. I don't think the Starscream would do that because he lost a little bit of power. He's not one to give up power so easily, and that's the thing.
But that would gain him power if Onslaught finds Swindle. Then and he can be on it enough to know when he does.
That's why he's pressing Windblade so hard. Then.
Yeah. It makes sense to me. But I don't know exactly. Here's the thing. I was listening to our previous podcast today just because I was at work and I wanted to see what we said because I don't remember. And I said something about thinking that Till All 1 had a rocky beginning because of one of the other Titans Return or something. That's actually the next one. Yeah. This story is incredibly tight storytelling. Yes. It's so good. And so when there's something that doesn't make sense, I think we forget in this particular series of issues, we forget that it's an ongoing because it feels like such a self-contained story. So we're like, Margaret, you didn't answer this question, Margaret.
But she will.
Well, we did with the last one because it wasn't part of an ongoing. But I mean, because there were a few things that we had questions about. But like I said, I said earlier, some of those questions were answered in the first 2 panels. That thread, we wanted to know about a few things. She kind of wrapped those up a little bit, not like completely, just gave us a little bit more information about it. So I was like, oh, okay, that's where we're at. But again, coming back to Starscream, it kind of makes sense. If he is the DC 537 or whatever that number is. If he's using Onslaught to find Swindle, he also is walking a very, very tight rope, because if he doesn't get enough information, isn't there fast enough to stop that, him getting Swindle, it means that he's going to get, so that's a huge thing. I don't know if he would take that risk. So that's why I'm like, it's interesting that we're sitting here on a podcast debating who was this guy. And I don't even remember if we ever find out who that guy was. But it's quite fascinating to see that in both cases, whether it's or somebody else, just the fact that he's spinning that he's taking those risks to see if it pays off in the end to get these guys taken care of. If he can't take care of the Combaticons himself, he's putting other people in the path to do that. And so he's manipulating from both sides. It's just like, oh my gosh, Margaret Scott, holy cow. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's very brilliant.
Whether or not she did it or not, it was like, you know what, I'm just going to leave that dangling, see what happens. It might make it. It might make it look I'm like, gosh.
Speaking of brilliant writing from Margaret, there's this killer good line from Blastoff that is the summary of his entire arc. Yeah. And it's when they're staging their falling out, and Onslaught's like, Duh. And he looks up at Onslaught and he says, I tried to help you, Onslaught. I did everything I could, even more than I should have, but I can't save you from yourself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because we know what he does later.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, wow, dang, that's really good. And then there's this
just the little nuggets. Yeah, because if you've already read the whole thing, you're like, oh, now you go back the second time. Oh, I know what's going to happen. You're like, oh, that setup is really good. Yeah.
I found that going back through and reading this again, I understood it so much better because, to be honest, I could not tell the Combaticons apart the first time I was reading this. When it first came out, I felt like an idiot because I'm like, everybody can tell these guys apart, but not me, because they have the same head.
You're not the only one. I have to say, I admit that there have been times where I struggled, where I had to go back a couple panels, who are we talking about again?
And that's
especially when
they've been so a non-entity for so long. It's easy to blend them all together. So.
And that's why I latched on to the fact that Blastoff was the standout character in this first part of the ongoing, because of the fact that he has purple eyes, just like Swindle used to have purple eyes. So it's Brawl, Swindle, Onslaught, Blastoff, and Vortex. So you take Vortex, Onslaught, and Brawl. Those are the three with red eyes, and then Blastoff and Swindle have the purple eyes, supposedly, because we don't really see Swindle's eyes in this.
No, he's got purple eyes.
That's what I figured. He always has, but you never know. Someone might have changed it. They didn't, obviously, thank God. And that's how I could tell. Onslaught and Blastoff, I knew. Vortex and Brawl, the only way I knew the difference between them is I know Vortex is a helicopter. That's the only way I know the difference between the two of them.
Well, I mean, even that. I mean, there's. I mean, they have a couple of things that are different about them, yes, but it's just that they all seem to be the guy that has the big stick that just wants to hit everything, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of character. We haven't really gotten much of them other than they're just a live wire ready to pick up the hammer and start whacking things. That's all I've ever seen them as until Blastoff, and I'm like, dude, I love this guy.
Yeah, Blastoff needs his own miniseries or something.
Oh, we get it. We get more.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters in the last 12 or 13 years that they have done stories with that I would love to see just separate. It was Burcham a number of years ago when I first started following Josh Burcham on Twitter. He said something about he always wanted to do a punch counterpunch story where he would write it, he would draw it, he would do everything on it essentially. I'm still waiting for IDW to make that happen. Because
they will never probably do that. They actually did have a script that was written and ready to be done. From what I understand, when I talked with Andy Schmidt, they had one.
Yeah.
But the story moved so quickly that it moved into a place where everything that was going on in that script specifically it ended up being outdated too quickly. And so they were never able to greenlight it, from what I understand. But they did take some elements of that script and kind of folded it in different ways into the story. I don't know. We never got the script, so I don't really know. But from what I understand, they took some of the elements and kind of planted them in there. So we maybe didn't get the punch-counterpunch, but some of the things that were laid in there that maybe hadn't been mined did get put into the story. I just don't know what those are.
Yeah. And issue 3 was really, really awesome. Any other final thoughts on issue 3, ladies?
It was cool. Let's just say I was genuinely worried when Chromia gets her ass handed to her. She was definitely going to protect Wheeljack like big time, and you knew she was going to because it's Chromia. I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's really awesome. But then when she got shot in the back, I was like, oh crap, man! And the blast off putting the gun to her head, I was just like, whoa, this is not good. I was genuinely worried for her. I was genuinely worried.
Yeah, it's not good.
I mean, because it might have been worth their while to just shoot her in the head before you leave, because she's gonna fight you one way or the other. If you don't put her down, you don't keep her under her leash, she is gonna turn around and start swinging her battle axe, and you're gonna have a problem again. You're gonna watch that one with 2 optics. Just saying.
That is actually a good compliment, because as we read, comic books specifically, we're already in the mind space of shooty, fight. Yeah. And so to have a scene like that really hit in your gut, where you're just like, oh, and it feels, again, like you're watching, a really good dramatic television show.
Yeah.
That's really well done.
Yep.
And then lastly, when you got the Enigma combination, I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
You know where this is going, right?
Yeah, they're gonna merge
with Combiner Wars.
No. They're gonna
we just got Combiner Wars.
They're gonna merge with a brain dead bot.
And there's that too. Yeah. Which is like, ew.
The guys,
there is a sense of you with that.
Yeah.
There really is. He's dead.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that'll give him a. Do you really want to be in the brain of something dead, though? I'm just saying.
Not really, no.
Only a Transformer can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I like to imagine that when Bruticus is walking, it feels like his entire leg is all tingly and asleep.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, take it away.
Okay, so issue 4,
Am I interrupting?
No. Not yet, anyway. Issue 4, basically, we start off with the fact that the Combaticons have the Enigma combination. They are going to combine, and we have the first IDW appearance of Bruticus, and it is glorious, I guess, and we have a nice little screamy shot with Ironhide. All units, I'm getting reports of a major disaster in Sector 4. Everyone, move out. Couldn't you have changed move to roll? Come on now.
Yeah, but that's Optimus Prime.
I know, but he's on Earth doing whatever the hell, destroying stuff because he's the worst leader in Transformers history.
True, but it's kind of Optimus Prime.
She agreed with me. Oh my god.
Slack both of you.
I'd rather just not be on Earth, but that's just a personal peeve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because IDW Optimus isn't the true one.
Yeah, No, that's Bavers.
He has his moments. He's just lost the Matrix right now, so he's
lost his way.
Yeah.
So
it is what it is.
They go on
go forward.
to have to basically stop Bruticus. They try to actually reason with Blastoff, and that doesn't work at all. Starscream and Windblade continue their marital counseling issues as this chapter goes along. Chromia just basically goes off and does her thing with revealing all, like, basically just taking all the blame. They eventually do take Bruticus down. They basically separate him. The sacrifices that Chromia makes in this, the actions that Ironhide and Windblade take, and, you know, Starscream is just there in the background, as always. Because heaven forbid he get anything on his wingspan. Heaven forbid Starscream actually has to take responsibility for something.
He will eventually.
Well, yeah. Eventually, but not in this initial part of the story.
There were a lot of really gold parts in this.
Oh, yeah. Basically, this one kind of ends where Chromia, like I said, fesses up to everything, and it's not Windblade's fault. It's not Windblade's secret to keep, and the secrets are out. And I just love the final page of the final panel of this, where Windblade is like, it's continuing on from earlier. At some point, no matter how hard it is, you have to step into the light. And the final page is just her stepping into, like, I almost didn't recognize. It's very rare that I see Windblade from this profile shot of her just looking at her by the back, and it's like, what the hell? But it looks really good.
It's a huge contrast because here she is, she's an optimist. She's been trying to pull things up and make things better. And in this case where she loses one of her closest friends and confidants because of things, it's a huge sacrifice. And she has to be stepping into light, and she is, but it ain't light. I mean, that's a really dark place. You can see that she is conflicted in a huge way because of what's happened and what she's, losing on this. Yeah. That even if you have stepped into the light, that is a very weighted down Windblade. She doesn't have her wings up. She's not this hopeful looking forward. She's, hurt, frustrated, and looking down. That is hardly the place that you'd expect her to be, even though she's just stepped into the light, that type of thing. It's such a good contrast. Such a good contrast. Yeah. That's one of my favorite panels right there, because you just see, we talked about earlier in the previous podcast how every single time something happens, she loses a little bit of ground and she changes, and she's seeing herself change from who she is to something else. And while she's making good steps in the right direction, like, there's been a cost that's involved, and this is part of that cost that she is experiencing, is the fact that she can't protect everybody. Yes, she probably should have protected Chromia, but at the same time, she didn't have anybody else. But the price of peace is to allow her friend now to take that burden, and it was kind of taken out of her hands. But it's everything else. It's the fact that she was manipulated. I mean, even in this issue alone, was it in this issue, last issue? No, it was in this issue, because she's like, look, we've got this stuff going on, and he basically tells her, she's like, I ain't doing this. It's not worth it. And what is it? He says, don't tell me you don't recognize those color schemes that combine. Where does he say? Oh, it's like, okay. So he's basically, Starscream is getting on her case for the Bruticus wouldn't even exist if you'd done your job. And she's like, my job is to help Cybertron and Caminus prosper, not to be your spy. And he comes down to this, well, consider yourself promoted to assassin.
Yeah.
He's basically telling her, you will murder these guys to protect everything. And she's like, I ain't doing it to protect your secrets. Yep. And he says, then kill to protect yours.
Yeah.
And that's when she's like, push has come to shove. And I'm like, dude, I could have told you that. You're willing to go that distance. Starscream's willing to go that distance and manipulate everybody else around him to be the murderers for him. Maybe if he's not doing it, he's already done it himself. He's just trying to put everybody down at the same level as him so that he can manipulate them, which he thinks he has with her. But I could have told you right now, she doesn't think like that. This is where he erred, because he expected that she would be willing to do anything and everything to protect that secret. And she wasn't. There was a line that she was not going to cross. She even hinted at that there is so far that she's going to go. Where's the line going to be? Mm-hmm. And he says, "Oh, I'm sure you'll scream at me when I cross it." He never thought about when she crosses it. She's not that bot. She ain't going to do that. And if you push her to do that, what's going to happen is either one of two things. Either she will buckle or one of the people around her will buckle, and you will lose your peace with her. And he did. Mm-hmm. He did. I was like, dude, you really didn't know the people below you, did you? You didn't really know. You think that you could push her enough? You didn't push her. You pushed her too hard, too fast. There's no way she's going to get there, especially how you're treating it. It's like going, dude, you totally erred there. Starscream, really? You really wanted this. You wouldn't have pushed it that hard. Yeah. But he did. So he lost that play piece.
Starscream, you done fucked up.
But it's so good because, like I said, we're sitting here on a podcast talking about it, a year after the fact, going, this is so good. Mm-hmm. It's brilliant how it's played. It wasn't that hard to set up. I mean, she makes it look like it's so easy. And that's what I liked that's what I like about a lot of Margaret's writing, is the fact that she makes us have a personal connection because she makes it believable, and we get something out of it. It was so good. This was so perfect. It's so good to read and to just like that's so anyhow.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here gushing.
Yeah, it is like. I knew going into this, like my first read through for these 4 issues, I felt like I was lost because of how the last Windblade story was collected so incorrectly. We went through all that last week.
That's the only hiccup. That's really the only hiccup in all of the run.
Yeah, that was the thing where I was like, And then I felt like when I read the first 2 issues the first time, I felt like I lost something or I was missing something. But like I said, I read it 2 different times before we recorded this. And I was like, okay, that works. I get it now. I fully understand. That's great. And just absolutely love it. Margaret writes stories so well. Sarah, Joanna, Priscilla, on art and colors, it's just so good.
So the last thing that I want to say on this issue, especially because this is such an interesting part, we've seen combiners as they are together and they work as a team and they talk and things like that. To see one of them have a dissenting voice, at least on the Decepticon side, we did when Optimus Prime and the bunch of them kind of got together and probably this way, and But it's just cool to see the Combaticons in this sense, that as they combine, you get Blastoff and his dissenting comments. Mm-hmm. And I liked how they did that in the art. I like how we get the information that they've been looking for, why Swindle was off what he had on Starscream. We get that there's a tape that he recorded of the whole situation, and it gets lost in the noise because Onslaught is like, no, I just want to burn, baby, burn, because there are some people out there, no matter what you do, all they want to do is see the world burn.
Yep.
Onslaught is that guy, and Blastoff isn't.
Nope.
You see the parts where he's like, no, where they're like, burn, burn. He's like, guys, don't want to do this. Stop. And he can't do it. It's like, our mission is to get after Starscream and to get him put out of power. And they get lost in the frenzy of what they want to destroy everything. And he's the only one that's like, no, stop. This isn't our mission. Stop. They might be in the way, but that's not what we're trying to get rid of. They're not the enemy. And he's just like, burn. I was like, oh, wow. It was just really cool to see that.
Yeah.
I really, really loved that about the whole moments between them. And then, of course, just before they try to hurt, Ironhide or Chromia jumps in the way because Windblade got knocked down. And
that panel is amazing.
Yeah. Which panel? Where she gets knocked down?
The panel where she jumps to save Windblade, and then they're both about to get smashed. Bruticus is like getting his guns down and aiming, and you see like this amazing like perspective up shot of Bruticus's guns, Chromia just standing there holding her shield, and Windblade kind of crouched behind her. And I so want that to be bigger because it's a really cool panel. It's in the page fold where you don't see it as much. I'm like, dang nabbit, that's awesome.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I can see it really good with mine just because I'm looking at the digital version.
Mm-hmm.
But you also get this little thing where Blastoff is off to the side saying, no.
Yeah, and it causes Bruticus to like that little where he's just like, like he is stuck for a minute. The double page spread where you see how it works inside their mind, and that's just really cool. That is the one where not being able to tell the Combaticons apart really, really bit me in the bum.
Yeah.
And this was the first time where I started really getting it. I'm like, okay, wait, that's this person, that's this person, that's this person. And understanding who is who in that section really helps the storytelling. And if you don't understand who is doing what in that mind space, it makes it very confusing and you don't get it. And so that really held me back first time through. And then I felt like even now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh wait, the guy reaching, that's Onslaught, that's not Blastoff. It's still kind of unfolding as I figure out, all right, whose head has got what doohickey on it.
Next time.
That's all right. You're right. It adds another meaning to it.
Yeah.
When you recognize who each one of them is and what they're trying to do. So, really? And not only that, I like how the bottom panel, it's Bruticus. While they're trying to figure stuff out, Bruticus is running after people. I'm just saying. So it's like they're multitasking and being angry. It's just like so much is going on at the same time. It's like, whoa, I don't know how I could be in somebody's head like that. Or let alone 4 other people's heads. And one of them is dead. Okay. Now I think I just hit my overload on that one. So I'm like, ah!
So what you're saying is Swindle is Jerry Garcia. He's a deadhead.
I don't know who Jerry Garcia is.
What?
Oh, he's the lead singer of the Grateful Dead.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh
my bad.
You know Swindle would be, though. He would love those comments.
Yeah.
He totally would.
Yeah. And then once everybody was wasted, he'd take their stuff.
Well, of course.
He totally would. And sell it.
That's what he does.
So there's a tape, guys. But the only one that knows it now is Bruticus, and he's been torn apart.
Yeah. Ah! This ending is so tragic. It's so tragic.
And it is an ending, but it really isn't an ending. It feels like it feels like this is a full on...
It really feels like an ending.
It feels like these 4 issues are just another miniseries, even though this is an ongoing, and that's great because we have a beginning, middle, and ending. At the same time, more is coming. Sadly, I don't particularly like where it falls because Volume 2, when we get to that in a couple of weeks, starts with the Revolution issue.
Ugh. Okay, I'll have to go back and read that.
Yeah. We'll discuss it when we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there. It's good to have these 4 issues that are untouched by anything except Mayor Good's story.
Yeah, no kidding. It's so good.
So good.
And I love where it goes later because Starscream and we're gonna get more Bruticus. We'll get more.
Oh, I'm sure.
We'll get more Combaticons. Let's just say that. There's more coming. If you haven't read it, go out and read it because we're going to discuss it later. It's going to be awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
There's going to be more character development. Let's just say that.
And that's one thing that all the writers are good at nowadays. But Margaret, her like I said earlier in this episode, the fact that she gave the Combaticons a place to go, that she gave them the personality aspect of it. She created for them, in my mind, personality traits that I've never seen before in them. And when I think of the Combaticons, like most old male Transformers fans, I think of G1 and the very short time they were in season 3, part of season 3. So it's like anything that expands on that's
the only
great.
one that's really had any character development has been Swindle, because he's been the guy that did the Fonz, and then he did other things, and we loved him because of the character that he's been since after Cybertron got rebooted, and the role that he's played in that.
Yep.
Because he's gotten story, but then he got knocked out of the story. He's been dead. And everybody's been running after him, and then we had this whole Swindle Lives things going on, and it's just like, hey, we're focused on Swindle. In the meantime, everybody else kind of just fell into the background, and the only character development that I've had with them is not been IDW's character development. It's what I've seen on Fall of Cybertron. I loved him in that game. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I loved playing the Combaticons. They're great. But this we actually get some really, like, Onslaught, Blast Off, they take the front stage.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's funny because before this book came out, I could have told you, I wouldn't have always been able to come up with their names, but I would have been like, okay, so Onslaught is the smart one, and Vortex is the helicopter one who's crazy, and Brawl is the dumb tank one, and I would not have been able to remember that Blastoff existed.
Yeah.
And the fact that Margaret's like, I'm going to take the most nobody of this team that nobody can really tell you much about and make him just, you're going to, like, be this character by the end of the book.
Yep. Absolutely.
Really, so, like, random all-encompassing comment about this particular volume. Mm-hmm. So I was reading it in the knowledge of stuff that happens in volume 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten that this blinking volume of 4 books is like one of the most romantic things I've ever read, and I'm still on the fence about, like, robots liking each other. But it is really, and I think honestly it's because Sarah will totally draw that.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many panels and so many things where, like, Onslaught is like, I only trust you, Blastoff.
Mm-hmm.
It just needs to be us.
Or when just, like, Starscream and Windblade are fighting.
Wait, what?
Or when Starscream and Windblade are fighting. Like
I can't get my head around those two being anything, so that can be your world and have fun in it. But, like, just, there were a lot of things just drawn or written in this very understated, but very, like, there's a thing that is done in writing where you're just kind of building the tension between characters, where there's, like, this sense of unfulfilled connection, and that is so incredibly blinking strong in this book.
It is, yeah.
It is. And holy crap.
Yeah,
even just like where Blastoff goes and he kind of reports back to Onslaught. He's like, "Hey, I got it on Ironhide's team," and you've just had the line that Onslaught drops of, like, I've spent enough time with this ooze as I care to. I'm like, oh, that is cutting, because I happen to know that Blastoff is, like, living his life to try and save you, dude.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he's like, hey, I did the thing, and Onslaught's like, he, like, hugs him and he's like, I couldn't be more proud.
Oh.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Holy crud, Sarah.
Those guys hugging.
Wait, what?
Those guys hugging, you would not. It seems like such a not Bruticus thing to do, and I can see where. Well, now that I've read the rest of it, I know where it's going. But it's just like, oh yeah, that was interesting. That's a nice little moment. I'm sure that Blastoff really enjoyed.
I know. Gosh dang it! This blinking book. I'm like throwing stuff right now.
Well, you've all everybody is every one of us I'm sure has had a crush, but like if you really, really want to have that type of attention from somebody, you finally get it, and you're just like flip-flopping heart attack,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what he's going through. It's like, oh
Yeah.
I'm having a completely different reaction to this now, having read the whole thing, than what I was when I first read that, just going, oh my gosh, this is so perfect, I love this.
And it's funny because, like, it feels like where you sit there the whole time being like, I'm not reading into this, right? This is really, it's really there. And then, of course, it's totally really there. But, there's just, back to the whole, they're so expressive.
Mm-hmm.
Did a great job with it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's, you know what it is? I was saying that, by the time we're done with this, we have become Blastoff. It's the same deal as in the beginning of More Than Meets the Eye, where we were all Tailgate.
Yeah. Or we've all been Swerve.
Yeah. At the end of this, we're just, or at least I am, I'm so completely immersed in, like, absolutely everything that Blastoff is feeling and experiencing and whatnot. I'm just like, it's hard to come out of it, even. It's like that feeling where you've read a really, really, really good book, and then you have to go to work, and you're like,
Yeah. There's one more thing that I forgot to kind of mention, because Ironhide has to arrest Chromia.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yep.
I mean, it's sad.
But up until now, because those two, and it's kind of not, we haven't really touched on them that much, they've been working together pretty much since the beginning of Windblade showing up, the first volume that we reviewed.
Yep.
He's been there the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a respecting going on between these two. And the fact that he has to arrest her now, because that's where he is, in his headspace, and he's like, he doesn't really say much. She just says, she takes off her helmet in like the second to last page, and shows the words that she's scratched on her head. And Ironhide shows up and says, Chromia, he hasn't really said much, but you see the look on his face where he's just like, he's torn. He's like, dude, you just, what?
Yeah,
and she's like,
gutted.
And she just says, do your job. Show them no one is above the law.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh, stab in the heart. Oh, yeah. And so he arrests her. But you have this little moment between the two of them where he says, I hope it was worth it.
Yeah.
And she's smiling because it is. Because for her, it is. She's doing something to protect somebody that's what she was there for. Her protection isn't necessarily physical.
Yeah.
She's politically protecting her.
Yep.
Yeah. And that the next page, the top panel where you see her being led away and Windblade being led away the opposite direction, and they're looking back at each other. That's good too.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
No, I love this first volume. I thought it was great.
Really strong.
Yeah, it was so. After I had read it the second time, like I said, and I finally got it all, and I'm like, oh, this is really, really cool. I need to start the next one now, because, I really dig this. And like I've said before, between Sarah, Joanna, and Priscilla, the art is just so good.
Yeah.
Absolutely so good. All right, so 0 to 5, what are we going to rate this thing, Heather?
5.
Aimee?
I was saying the same thing. 5, absolutely. It's spot on.
So
there aren't even any teeny little niggles.
You don't have to have
perfect.
Things don't have to be perfect to be perfectly wonderful.
So basically,
if that's what you're looking for out of the 5, it's like there's so many moments and things that are jiving so well. Everything flows so perfectly. You get so much character development. I just say, look, it's hitting all of the notes that needs to be for what I would equate to a $5 or a 5-star comic. It doesn't have to be perfect. Art is never perfect. Writing is never perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect script. So for me, this is a 5 because it's doing all those things. I get the payoff. I'm just like thrilled to death about each of the characters, even the ones that are doing the dark things, because the emotion is there. The integrity of the emotion is there. I feel it because they have all of the points getting in there to make me feel this. And she did her job. She told a story. 1, 2, 3, 4, got it all together, and I feel like I've got a satisfying payoff, even though I'm like, okay, what happens next? I have some. It's a nice little meal of a story.
Yep, absolutely.
It's a rich feast of a story.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. So basically, 5s all around. The story and the art and everything else. The whole book gets a 15 essentially.
Yes.
You know, absolutely loved it. Like I said, I had no trepidations going into this. I wasn't like worried about this. This isn't like ending a certain other story that we'll get to in episode 321. This isn't like having a requiem for a team. You know, I'm not worried about this. I'm more worried about that because who the hell knows what's going to happen to those guys. But I absolutely love this. Like, this series should have been longer than 12 issues. It's going to be great to see us when we get to the whole finale here to see how the whole thing wraps up, but I really think that this series could have gone on longer just by reading these first 4 issues.
Yeah, I think there were other reasons why it ended.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with the story.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that, you know, just like in all of comics, you know, not just this specific series, we want to see it go on as long as possible, as long as the story makes sense. And with Margaret on the writing and with these artists on the art, like, these women can do no wrong. And I mean, Tom B. Long and Barber, you know, John Barber, they're always great. I mean, Tom's been doing letters for this for all 13 years at this point, I think, for the most part.
He's been doing it for a while, absolutely. He doesn't get enough credit.
No.
Tom is ace.
Yes, he is. So
he's so sneaky. He's like a ninja in the background, making sure everything works on, you know, that side. So, yeah, I think I did. I have to say, I love you, Tom. There was one error that I saw in the digital one.
It's okay.
It was just a word. It was misspelled. It was an easy thing to miss, but I saw it.
There are plenty of times.
I only bring it up because in the past, when sometimes we brought things up, people change it and fix it. It's done and dusted and fixed.
Yeah.
It's you know, really easy to, well, I would say easy because sometimes it's a pain, but you know, to find little things like that.
Yeah.
With all the eyes that are on it, it's easy to miss something. Believe me, it always is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, we're about to get the heck out of here. Aimee, where can the people find you online?
You can find me at Twitter at LadyWreck.
What about you, Heather?
You can find me on Twitter and everywhere as Ha Hee Prime.
You can follow Nicole at Beatles Diva. Beatles like the bug, not the band. Oh wait, whoops.
Hopefully she'll join us for the next issue.
She better, or else. She's not just a plain old bumblebee anymore. She's a gold bug. It's at Beatles Diva on Twitter, or just Google Beatles Diva. Beatles like the band, not the bug. I am at TFG and Mike. You can follow at the Pull Bag on Twitter. Find us on Facebook. Go to geekcastradio.com. Check out all the other podcasts that we do. Coming up next time here in Autobotly August 2018, we are going to be celebrating 10 years of all things Transformers with Steve Megatron coming on to review Transformers vs. G.I. Joe Volume 1 with me. So that's what's going on next time, and after that it'll be Ryan and I talking Lost Light and The Worst Leader Ever Optimus Prime Volume 1. So there's that. So that's the next 2 weeks or so of Autobotly August. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's a pity you Autobots die so easily. or I might have a sense of satisfaction now.
You got the touch. You got the
Arise, Rodimus Prime. Optimus.
Yeah!
No.
Really? No Prime defense? Come on.
No Prime defense? What?
Forever. Why the hell they have to give Optimus an ego problem is beyond me, naming the book after him.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother.
Where art thou?
Well, they named Unicron, so are you saying that he's the equivalent of Unicron?
Well, Aileron does perceive him as a god, which he's not.
Do you realize
she's learned
that
better?
Till All Are One, before that, of course, was 2 miniseries of Windblade.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to give her a hard time?
No, because she doesn't have a godlike complex.
No, she's just doing what she thinks is right, and Optimus Prime is doing what he thinks is right. So there you go, bro.
Worst leader ever.
I don't bother defending him because I don't feel like he needs defending. He is himself, and it doesn't matter what you think about him. He's still good, and it doesn't matter what IDW writes about him. He's still good.
So basically, what you're saying
He's just wearing a different hat.
God. So basically, what you're saying is he can take as many faces as he wants.
Oh man, that's dark and weird. No, I don't take other faces. I am myself. Gosh dang it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were made of sterner stuff.
And I took all these notes and we never even addressed all the real life parallels that are in that book.
What, Till All Are One?
Yeah. Okay, so for instance, this is my list. Real life parallels. Ironhide appointed as a special prosecutor. The racist guy being all, go back to your own planet, and talking about immigration policy. This is all verbatim crap. Mm-hmm. A police shooting with footage of unarmed and fleeing guy being shot in the back.
And this is before the current president was in office.
I know, I checked. I'm like, and it was back in 2016, but it was still when a lot of the police shootings were happening, and then they even say broken windows and cracked pavement is going to be punished. And there's people protesting saying no justice, no peace.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of real world parallels, you're right.
Like, I see why Margaret put it in, but at the same time, I really have conflicted feelings about it. Because 1 or 2 feels okay, but more feels a little bit exploitive.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I was like... because...
But how? Okay,
it
so
feels
how?
Like, I'm white, she's white, we're all white. I'm like, ah.
But how many people other than us are going to, like, somebody will make that correlation with the real world parallels, but really probably most people that are reading this for the fantasy. They're not really yes, it's great.
True,
I'm
but the
not
staying
saying
power of any work is usually because there's some sort of parallel that they can take out of it, whether it be the real world now or real world later. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are some things that, and so sometimes the staying power can be both good and bad. I kind of didn't read it too heavily. I mean, I know that things like that happen, but it's also very cliche. A lot of those things happen whenever any of that is happening. Yeah. So I guess in a sense maybe it was a little stronger than, but she wasn't shouting it, so it didn't really bother me or freak me out of the story. And you can analyze the heck out of it,
and the thing of it is when I saw those points, because I picked them out immediately, I'm like, oh, they did that, or oh, they did that, or oh, they said this, which is obviously like what the real world was doing at the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, so they're trying to make the book feel human, which is good, especially for a book with giant friggin' robots. So, I think that's why it was done. I don't necessarily think it was overdone, but I don't know, to each their own, I guess.
Yeah.
Till all are one.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter @thepullbag and @geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.